Hello, how are you doing? Welcome from Nashville, Kate.
I'm so good. I'm so excited for this.
Well, thanks for coming on. I know you're busy kind of traveling and working, so I'm excited to have this conversation with you and hear more about your story because it's a pretty incredible one. And I just find it cool with me and you how we've always somehow been connected even before we officially met. Working at Princess Margaret, your mom was at Princess Margaret. Then you came to the Oilers. Colby was at the Oilers. Then you were amazing and so supportive after Colby passed away. And now following your journey, wherever it's taking you, whatever hockey rink, whatever sport, has been really, really cool to watch. So tell us a little bit more about your story, your amazing parents, and kind of what got you here today.
Well, it's pretty crazy because I truly had such a blessed upbringing with two amazing parents, and I do have a little sister, and we just did everything. We were very athletic, we were very involved in sports. My dad was a former professional football player, and my mom worked in fashion. And he retired before I was born, but then he retired into the broadcast booth. That's sort of like the starting point of what became my career, and just the support system that I had growing up was very heavily involved in sports. We were always participating in everything, and my parents were right there with me. So I guess just to touch briefly on the story with them was just that in 2008, sort of our normal, what you would call cookie cutter, pretty privileged life. I was living a really great life with a great family. My dad had some chest pain, and he was at a dinner party, and everyone had said, go to the hospital. They'll take you right in. If you're saying something about your heart, you don't wait. And we all know in Canada, sometimes the benefit is free healthcare and the negative is how long you wait.
Mm-hmm.
So he was really stubborn, and he just said, no, I'm not going. And he booked an appointment with the heart specialist. And I remember I was out at a dinner with my girlfriends on the Sunday night, and he came to pick me up, and he was dropping me off. And as he was driving, we were going to make a turn, and he was like, just give me a little advance notice. And I was like, what? So weird. And he was like, I just don't startle me. And anyway, so I was like, oh yeah, okay, we're turning in 2 blocks. He dropped me off. I spent the night at my friend's. And then the next day I went home for a family dinner, and I didn't know that that would be our last family dinner as a group of 4. He booked an appointment to see the heart specialist, and he never made it. He died the night before. And at that time, we were living separate during the week. He would go down to the city. We were up north at our ski chalet / summer where we spent most of our summers. And so I got home from work that night, and I just remember my mom being like, did I talk to your dad yesterday or today? Just, when the days blur and you're like, was that yesterday or was that 2 days ago? Anyway, so we got on the phone. We tried calling him. No answer. His best friend owned a restaurant, and he would always go down there when he was by himself and just have dinner at the bar with Bruno. So I called Bruno, and we realized it was his regular date night with his wife. So would be out of character for my dad to be there. But I think Bruno got the sense that something was wrong. So he packed up from date night and went to the house to check. In the meantime, we had a neighbor go over and check, and the alarm was on, which meant his usual routine, go down, put the alarm on, go back upstairs, go to bed. So that was the first point where we were like, uh-oh, something's wrong. And at the time, we didn't have call waiting. So when I called his friend back and the line was busy, I was sitting on the couch with my mom. And that's when I was like, something bad's happened, because it didn't go through. He had to be on the phone with 911, was not good. My dad, at 57, former professional athlete, super healthy by all accounts, dropped dead of a sudden heart attack. So at that point, I mean, it's all a blur, as you know, when it happens. Now I think back to little details, but in the moment I was like, what is happening? My sister was 17, I was 21, and now my mom was alone with the 2 of us. Yeah, we went down to the city, we went through it all, and again, the weeks went by, and it was like, how did you go from, perfect, loving, healthy family to just how at 57, someone who's so healthy and a former athlete just drops dead. And from a relationship perspective, my dad was my best friend. and I'm very similar to him. So that was really, it was a lot. And we can get into the aftermath and sort of how that affects you. But then, we're still reeling. And 6 months later, he died at the end of July. And so I went back to school close to the end of August. My sister went into her first year of university by herself 3 weeks after my dad died. Fast forward 6 months, and I got a call from my mom, and I don't even think I really I definitely didn't understand in the moment. But she was like, hey, so I went in for a checkup and they found a tumor and it's really not a big deal. But if you could move your exams up and write them early and come home, that would be really helpful. And I'm like, of course, my mom downplaying. They found a massive tumor, stage 4 ovarian cancer. And this is 6 months after my dad just dropped it. They gave her 2 months to live. So she'd been having some back pain, little symptoms, but we write it off. You get a headache. Oh, it's stress. It's so easy to write off so many of those symptoms.
Probably too, because you guys were in the thick of grief as well. I feel like there's so many symptoms that you're like, it's just grief, or you kind of tune it out and push it away because you're still in such a state of shock of what you guys were going through with your dad as well.
Yeah, and you've talked about it, loss of appetite, and then you're losing weight, and you just you're so overwhelmed by all of these feelings, and also all the things you have to do. Mm-hmm. Because if you're not expecting someone to die, there's mm-hmm. a lot of, exactly what I'm talking about, all the crap that mm-hmm. you're like, I'm dealing with this major loss, but I also have to figure out, how to unlock this bank account.
Death and duties that are
right? And
horrible.
you're like, do I need to deal with more of this crap?
Yeah.
I need a timeout, universe. So it was just whoa. And my mom really downplayed it because she had to. As a mom, you're looking out for your girls. And as soon as I got home after writing those exams, which everyone at Queen's was amazing, I was like, uh-oh, this is bad. And my sister was finishing up university, so we had to hide it from her for a couple of weeks because my mom was like, we can't take anymore. We just have to let her finish. She's a baby. Finish first year and then come home. And my mom's surgery was almost 7 hours. So as you know, Princess Margaret is one of the most top 5 cancer research hospital, unbelievable facility. So we were always in the best hands, but the outlook from the start, when you're stage 4 to begin with, it's pretty bleak. And so she had the surgery and she was given 2 months to live. And when I tell you that my mom, am I allowed to say a bad word? My mom was so badass. So badass. Best way to capture that, if you haven't met her, you didn't get the chance, was she was given 2 months and she lived 8.5 years. You don't do that unless you are just wired a different mm-hmm. way. She did every clinical trial and she battled. She was just a fighter, and very different to lose someone suddenly and then to have that time, because people always ask me, what was worse, what was better. I mean, I'm losing my parents.
You can't compare.
No.
Yeah. Your mom or your dad, losing your mom or dad.
No. But I will say that despite the end being horrific, and us looking back now and kind of laughing at some of the scary nights year 1, or when she was rushed to emerge year 4, we're laughing now because we were like, oh my gosh, that was nothing. And we were freaking out in the moment, is this goodbye? Mm-hmm. The last 2 weeks were absolutely horrific. But mixed in there were so many beautiful moments. And some of them were ugly beautiful, mm-hmm. that we're laughing because her body was shutting down. She was dying in front of us, but we were making the most of it. I mean, I'll give you one example. She was determined and she didn't want to give up her independence, yet she was an extreme fall risk. So my sister and I quit my job. I moved home for 4 months to take care of her. And I remember getting this text from my sister. We're in the same house. She's like, where are you? And I'm like, Mom's going to the bathroom. But the problem was she was so weak that she'd just fall asleep. So she'd wheel in on her walker and then be sitting there trying to go to the bathroom, and then she'd just fall asleep. So then, you know, it's her world. We're doing anything she asks. So then I'm sitting on the floor in the bathroom, like on my phone while my mom sleeps. So there was that. Or when she needed a bath, she was so thin that she was always so cold. So it would be like, now I need a shower. And we had a steam shower. So I'd be in there. We called them elephant baths. I would be in there in full sweatpants, dripping sweat. But like I didn't have time to put anything on to take her into the shower. So I'm like, yep, we're going in the shower. And so I'm in this full sweatpants, just dripping, but like, it's your mom. You just do it. So we laugh at stuff like that, where like, it was an absolute shit show. But those are like, we got all that time and we got to say the things. And while it got bad pretty quickly at the end, you know, I had a notebook and I got as much as I could given her lack of strength. But recipes, how did you and dad meet? When you were pregnant, you know, what made you sick? All of those little things, just so I had as much as I could. I was kind of scrambling.
Which is totally different than your dad.
Exactly. I never got to say, and I dwell on it, and I don't know, I would assume that you probably have some of these things too, but like, we had a fight the week before. I wouldn't even call it a fight, but he was playing in a golf tournament, and they were doing a warm-up round. And it was boys only, and my dad had said, well, I'll see if you can come and play with me. And I was so excited. And then he was like, hey, I'm so sorry, but the boys say just boys. And I was so mad. And that was a week before. Like, what small potato? But I look back and I'm like, God, I wish I wasn't mad about that. That was not, like...
And I feel like it reminds you now too, like in little moments. Even now when I'm feeling like frustrated or whatever, I'm like, if something were to happen 5 seconds after, is it gonna matter? Or like if something, and like it's really changed the way that I think now live forward, because like you said, it's so small potatoes when like life's tragedies hit you. So yeah, I totally can imagine experiencing both, and in the span of such a short period of time. Like, yeah, anytime I hear your story, I give you so much credit, and I wish I didn't have to give you credit or be like, I hate when people are like, you're so
it's
strong, and it's like, ugh. I feel like when you've been through it too, you're like, I know this sounds cliche, but like, I'm so sorry. Like, it's such a interesting dynamic. But I think what's been really cool, as I kind of talked about in the beginning, how both of our griefs have kind of like intertwined, and how like I remember Keith Clark, he was my boss at Princess Margaret, and I remember him talking about you and your mom, and then how we both ended up in Edmonton. And I was literally just watching the other day, I'm gonna start crying thinking about it. You sent me this video of Colby when you were reporting, and he's like giving the kid a puck or like a stick, and like, yeah, just how both of our griefs have like intertwined, very, very different, all three of them. But like I said in the beginning, you can't compare anyone's grief, whether it's a parent, whether it's a spouse, whether it's a child, whether it's sudden or whether it's terminal. It's all just so horrible. But I do find the people that have, and I don't know if you've experienced it, I feel like the people that have gone through grief just get it. And like, you don't wish like grief or like bad on anyone, and everyone's time will come. But I feel like when someone else has gone through some type of trauma or grief, you kind of just get it. Like, that's the only really way to say it.
You know what though? Like, it's funny. I saw you post about reading Mel Robbins, and I'm working on that too. And I should be good at it, at at like letting it go, because exactly what you're saying. Like,
it's
life's
so
short, and it really does. It totally easier said than done. I'm like, I read this book, I'm fixed, but it alters your perspective. And I really do agree that you don't wish it on anyone, obviously. But I think some people cruise through life without really experiencing that, and they don't have the same understanding, the same like deep-rooted compassion, and they just don't get it. And it's not a fault of their own.
Yeah. You can't,
but
I always say you can't fault someone for not going through trauma.
No, but you also, they just don't get it. It's just, take it for what it is. And I think like I learned so much through all of it. And even with my mom, there was, and I'm not going to name who the person is, but there was a friend who for those 4 months, was a friend from the ski club and kept being like, come to après ski, come to après ski. And I was like, I have to feed my mom. Like, I have to hook her up because she's being fed through a tube. Like, I cannot come to après ski, but I'm 3 minutes down the road. So you come by anytime. And if my mom's not up for a visit, we'll just close the door and hang out in the living room. But if she is, she'd love to see you. That friend never came over. And when the funeral happened, we had a monster of, by the way, my mom planned her entire funeral down to the menu. So my sister and I emceed, and that was our opening joke was, if you've got an issue with the menu, you can take it up with her. So that was how we led. But that same friend who couldn't come down the street to the house when they were up every weekend at the ski resort, that same friend was right there with a bottle of champagne, like ready to party after the funeral. And I thought, like, you just learn to say, okay, fair weather friend, compartmentalize, because I was so hurt, but I can't dwell on it. Like, she didn't get it.
And I think you nailed it there. I think in the beginning there's so much, because it's like, this sounds so horrible, but like the hot attraction, right? Like it's the hot news at the time. Like when someone
100%.
passes away and like everyone comes in and everyone whatever. And like over the years, you see who was true and who was genuine. Because once the funeral has stopped, once shit really hits the fan with grief, let's get real. Like in the beginning, you were in such shock. Once
no
the
more
6
adrenaline.
months out, once the year, those who still show up, those are your people. And I feel like, yeah, I can only imagine how hurtful that was. I mean, I had a few of those people, and still to this day, I just like, but then there was people that like you, like I remember we were in the NHL bubble and I was in the building and you wrote me a letter, and like I still have that letter and like the box of like all the letters and like cards that I received at the time, and like people that did things like that, not just like a quick retweet or like show up to a funeral or like a repost or like a quick like, I'm so sorry for your loss, and then like moves on.
Right.
So I think, and I don't know about you, but over the years, as like grief has like evolved or changed, or you accept things or however you want to word it, I feel like in the beginning I was really, really angry when people would act like that. Like I'm like, how dare you? And then now I feel like I've just unfortunately accepted it. I mean, there's still times where I'm like, hold me back. I'm like, that is why I'm reading that book. But like, yeah, it's interesting how like grief, I hate this saying time heals all, because you're never healed, but it's interesting how with time your grief does change, but it's always in waves. It's always different emotions. There's always like sadness and anger, and then there's like calm, and then there's understanding and accepting. Like it always changes. But I do say over time, I don't have the like, I want to murder people for the reaction around grief.
Yeah, and I think it's funny about relationships. I had a girlfriend who I'm very close with, but she doesn't have a great relationship with her mom. Both her parents are alive. And we had a rocky friendship until I finally just said, hey, look, I get it. You and your mom don't get along, but if you could just be a little aware of like me being around, because I would leave dinners and go home and cry. And I remember being at Queens. It was right after my dad died. And God bless my roommates, because they were like my lifeline. I was living in a house with these girls. Thankfully, they had met my dad in the spring before we went into our 4th year, new roommates. But I remember being at a bar, and it was like a live music thing. And my friend's mom was in town, and they'd had a nasty divorce. And they were sitting there bashing the dad, and the mom and the 2 brothers were bashing the dad. And I was like sitting at the table just being like, my dad like literally just dropped dead, read the room. But many people aren't aware, so I just went to the bathroom and I was sobbing, and my roommates came and like kidnapped me out of the bathroom, because I was like, I can't be seen, like I can't walk back through the bar by myself. I was sobbing in a bathroom stall, and they came and got me. And it was just like, that was so, it's like,
so many people need to read the room around like,
he might be shitty, but you have one. And that's what's so hard too. I think that people underestimate that extra layer of grief of relationships and what other people are dealing with. And there's so much. Like my sister was in a terrible relationship, and thank God she called off her wedding, because now she's married to just a kind and wonderful person. But I understand why it took so long after my mom died for her to get to that point, because I think deep down she felt that it wasn't right for so long. But I think about it now, like, she's married, I'm not, but her husband never got to meet my mom or my dad. So I think she hung on a little longer than she should have, because he at least knew our mom. And the reality is that unless I marry a childhood friend now, they're never going to know my parents. And that's such a big, especially when we had the childhood we had where we were so tight. That's really hard. So there's the loss and the major, whatever you want to call it, chunk of grief. But I think what people who haven't been through it don't understand is how many layers there are, and how many. I look at a plant and I'm like, oh, my mom would have loved that. Or I'm walking down the street and, like, it's a sunny day and a cute dog walks by and I'm like, God, I wish my mom was here. Yeah, like, I don't think people, until you've experienced it, you don't get it. You really don't. And I also don't know that, people feel different ways. And I think if you're someone like me, and just from what I know about you, when you're really empathetic and passionate and compassionate, you just feel all these feels, and it's like 24/7.
I remember, I'm going to start crying tonight. I remember
I've cried 3 times already, so whatever.
When I left Nashville, so in April, when I left Nashville and I was like moving to the States, and it was my bachelorette weekend. And when I say I sobbed that whole flight, because I knew I wasn't going to be allowed back in the States, and I didn't. I still don't know how long, which brings a lot of trauma. If something happens, I can't get back in. But like flying and leaving behind, like, just like Colby's ashes, or like all his jerseys that like are not okay here in California, or like, and then I was like flying into, I felt like the Bachelorette is like, I tried to be so like happy and excited, and there was like a post Colby game and a pre Colby like group kind of there, and I think the pre Colby group was really good at being like, this is a lot. Like, this is like, you're moving out of your country, you're marrying again, it's also your birthday, the Colby, and like everything. And I remember I just saw you in the airport.
Like, talk about the stars aligning.
Exactly. And you just gave me a hug, and I just like cried in the Uber, and I was like teary-eyed with you, because I was like, you have no, like, I needed that when I landed. Like, I needed someone that had experienced grief, that knows how heavy it was to land, even though it was like a positive weekend, that was like, hey, even though this is like positive and everything's good and all of that, it's okay to still feel heavy. And I think that's like the hardest part about people that haven't been through grief, or if you've been through grief, or you're like me or you, is there's so many positives, and there's so many cool moments, and like we'll talk about your career here shortly, that you're like, this is so cool. But at the same time, it's like the trauma that got me here, a lot of people don't see, but you feel 24/7 every day for the rest of your life. Like, a lot of people just see you have this cool reporter job, or, oh, I've married again, and like everything must be great. But like 24/7, 365 days a week, we remember the trauma that got us there, and we feel the trauma and the loss that got us there.
Yeah, I mean, I play a lot of golf. I love golf, but I learned to golf with my dad. So, like, sometimes I'll just be on the golf course. I'm doing something I love. It's my day off. And I'm like sad, because I'm like, oh, I hit a great shot. And I'm like, wow, he would have loved that one. Or like, with my mom and how involved I am with the horses. I think of her all the time, because she was the one that got me into horses. And I will tell you, my mom, before she died, gave me the best gift. It's like, poor guy who I ever end up with, because there's like, even my sister, like, there's no shot at beating this gift in my lifetime. And I think life is a little bit different now because we have phones. So parents are recording their kids all the time. But from before I was born, my mom kept a journal, and I never knew about it. And the last Christmas before she died, she gave it to us, this book that she had made. So she had a friend's kid, kind of like an internship. She paid her to transcribe every single journal entry. So I know my first word. I know the day I said it. I know the first food I ate, my first steps, like all of these things that I can't ask her about now.
Mm-hmm.
And she gave me this book. And the first time I read it, I read the whole thing straight through and just like sobbed for hours. And I keep it and I go back to it. But like it was just amazing to have that. I knew I rode a horse before I was even one. She put me in front of her on the saddle, and I love water, and I loved water back then. I'm always like in the pool. She called me a little fish. Like things like that are so amazing. So I think kids now moving forward will have those memories because of phones and being able to flip back and see, oh, that was February 3rd or whatever. But like what a priceless, priceless gift for her to give me, because now I can look back on all of those things. But with that said, so much of my childhood is what I still love today. And there's like an ounce of sadness in everything I do. And it will forever be that way. And some anniversaries, I feel weird. And I don't know if you can relate to this, but you just like I'll wake up and I'll just be like, why am I like off today?
Or
And
like
then
leading up,
at
like
2 p.m., I'm like, holy crap, it's the 10-year anniversary. Or like, honestly, sometimes I'll be caught off guard because friends will text me and be like, thinking of you today. And I'm like, why? And then, or some years I'm like bracing for impact 3 days before. Like it is just wild. And I think that's another thing that people underestimate is like how it hits, when it hits, like no rhyme or reason. I can just be blindsided.
I think that's so true. I feel like everyone thinks it's like just the days, like just the anniversary days, but sometimes it's just like a random day in a grocery store or on the golf course, like you said. Is like a heartbreaking but beautiful thing at the same time, which like you learn to like embrace as a part of like your grief journey, or I have like tried to embrace, but sometimes when it hits, you're like,
it's like,
this is
I have my
this
cry
is rough.
songs if I need to get it out in the
Yeah.
car.
Yeah.
Like that one will do it. And one of them is Ed Sheeran's Supermarket Flowers.
Okay.
And it's because it's about losing his mom. And there's a line in there, and I'm going to get it wrong, but the concept is like the reason you miss someone is because like when you feel this way and you grieve like that, it's because you were so loved. And so you mentioned, the beauty in it too. It's like, how lucky was I to have the time I had with supportive parents who gave me what I think is a great foundation to be a good human and to care about people, other people, strangers, friends, everything. It's like I am who I am today because of them. And even though I feel I was absolutely robbed of much of that time, it's the same for you. You experienced what that kind of love and support of a partner feels like. So not everyone gets that. And so I think the way that you have to look at it a lot of the time is instead of, and don't get me wrong, I have woe is me moments where, like you said, I'm angry at the world because it doesn't seem fair that two healthy and kind and wonderful people are gone. But I think I go about life with less of a woe is me attitude because I had a good chunk of that, amazing, supportive, loving, and not everyone gets that.
Speaking of your dad and being in sports and broadcasting, talk a little bit about what you do now. And I feel like that like honors your dad and kind of keeps him a little bit with you as well, that much more. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I grew up, he was a broadcaster. So his career ended before I was born. So my parents did the like wild pro sports life. And then they're like, okay, cool, we're done. Let's have kids. And so my mom actually had me at 39 and my sister at 42. So it was a bit later in life, and he retired to the broadcast booth. So he was a color commentator for TSN and CBC for 23 years. And so a lot of my childhood, like when I talked about us being best friends, I was like a little version of him, but female. So, we'd go golfing. I'd go on road trips with him and be on the sidelines for games. And my worst/best joke is that it was the popcorn in the press box at the Rogers Center, which was the Sky Dome, which got me hooked. But thankfully, I later fell in love with football. So, I mean, if you've had it, it's really good.
Okay, now I need to have
But yeah, the Rogers Center Sky Dome, whatever, it's always going to be the Sky Dome to me. I grew up there. But the popcorn in the press box is elite. But I did fall in love with the game. And so a lot of the time we spent together, whether it was driving up to the cottage from downtown, we'd be listening to the Fan 590, which is the sports station in Toronto. And when I tried out for Powder Puff, which is the women's flag football in the winter at school, I got cut 3 times, but I kept trying. But we were out in the backyard running routes, and he was helping me. He actually humbled me a little bit, and he said, "Are you sure you want to be a receiver? Like, maybe you should be a defensive back." And I was like, "No, I want to be a receiver like you." And he was like, "Yeah, see, I think you might be better at batting down the ball." And I was like, oh, okay, cool, sick, can't catch, still can't catch, little hands. Anyway, but like that was our relationship. And I have so many amazing guy friends now. And it just, that's sort of like replicating some of the moments I had with my dad where I could just sit on the couch and no one's explaining the game to me. I'm arguably more well versed in sports than the guys on the couch. But that was our relationship. When he died, I was going into my 4th year. And at that point, I was like, okay, that's what, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was getting a political science degree, which many people do because it's generic and you can kind of go, you can go to law school, you can do kind of whatever. So I ended up moving all of my electives to be online. And I interned at the local radio station. And I actually went on, it was ahead of Valentine's Day. And so I was helping the anchor get a date. And when I tell you I have literally no experience, no expertise, unqualified, but I'd like Google tips for getting a date. And then I bring them on the show and be like, Matt, you should definitely do this. Or like girls like this. And that's how I started on the radio, which is outrageous. But I literally took every opportunity I could at that point to get on air, to get experience. I did for local cable, the Santa Claus parade. Here we are downtown and Santa's on his way. Like literally anything. Because at that point, I was about to get a 4-year degree from a great university. I didn't want to go backwards. Mm-hmm. So I interned my way into paid work. I was an intern at the 2010 Olympics, which is, I suppose, at some point my claim to fame, because I was live on national television doing dumb things as an intern, running around. But it gave me some stuff for my demo reel. Yeah. And then I was back at Blue Mountain doing the snow report. And then I just built a tape. And I think if I learned anything from my dad, it was work ethic. Because I got to watch him all those years and the way he over-prepared and the way he was just like on his A game, getting ready to go, and how he took everything so seriously, whether it was commentating or reporting at my equestrian events, because somehow he got in, TSN was doing that. And I'm like riding my pony, my dad's working the big class. And I'm like, hey, Dad. But he really did take everything, so seriously. And the one line he spoke at a conference at Queen's that I was a part of, the sports industry conference, and he talked about passion driving performance. And that's something I use every day. If you are passionate about what you're doing, it doesn't feel like work. Mm-hmm. You're going to be successful because you're going to work hard because you're so passionate about it. And so I think that's sort of, I've been in situations where there were missed opportunities, bad timing. And when I tell you a career in the sports industry, and you would get this from your side of things, the highs are so high and the lows are so low. And they happen in like a matter of days. Yeah. Like I've been pitching a bunch of stuff, and Friday I got 3 no's. And so I got in the car with my best friend and I was like, I'm grumpy. I'm going to Starbucks and I'm giving myself an hour. And she was laughing at me, but I literally pouted for an hour because I was so upset. I cried a little bit. And then I was like, you know what? Next, we're pitching the next stuff. And, it's Monday and I'm back on the horse and I'm doing my thing. But Chester's upset with us. Chester's my hype man. He's like, Chester's like, horse, girl.
I'm passionate about this. Yeah, it's Monday. He's ready to go. No, that's not nice, Chester. Chester's not being nice to the other dog outside.
Oh no, I'll take him as my hype man.
No,
but yeah, so I've grinded and I did. Okay,
Chester,
that's okay. But yeah, so I did 4 years on the CFL sidelines before I got that opportunity with the Edmonton Oilers to be a ringside reporter. And then I think you know, tying in the grief is like you just learn to figure it out. And I mean, I moved across the country. We met very briefly. And 5 months later, the world shut down. So I'm like, I just packed up my whole life and moved. And then I packed up my whole life and moved back. So I think what I've learned through grief has actually, and it's kind of a nice nod to my parents, has actually helped me just find a way. I am in one of the toughest industries and it is a grind, but I'm determined because this is what I want to be doing. On a Saturday night at the rink, it doesn't feel like work. I'm not thinking, oh, I'm missing this or I'm missing that. Like, I'm where I want to be. A lot of people want to be where I want to be. I'm getting paid to watch sports. That is freaking cool. So it's been just the last few years have just been all over. And I was working for Vanderbilt as a host, worked for the Preds, and then I got this incredible opportunity to be with the Vancouver Canucks and to be the face of the team. And I dove in. And so I did that for an entire year. And it was incredible. The experience that I got, we were winning on TV across the country, you know, doing what I loved. But I was so far from my family. And I think that grief gives you a good perspective too on what's important in life. And in that moment when I took the job, it was so important. That was where I needed to go. And even, you know, when my mom was sick, I moved away to Regina to work at Global News. And that was all the stepping stones to get me into sports. And my mom pushed me out the door. She was like, go. And I was like, well, you're sick. Like, I want to be near home. Go. Okay. So I went. So I do think a lot of my decision making, I'm like, what would my mom say? And again, those are the moments where I want to call and I want to ask. And my best friend's mom has stepped up, and my mom's girlfriends have stepped up.
That's amazing.
You know, to be, I remember when I was in Edmonton, I called my best friend, asked his mom, Nancy, and I'm like, I need mom advice. And she's like, get in the car, come live with us, pack up your stuff. It's just money. Because I'd signed a lease.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm going to lose all this money. The world's shutting down, so many unknowns. So I've been blessed in that regard to just have like great people around me in this core group, core people who get it, where you don't have to say, like, this makes me sad. I could just say, you know, like, my mom would have loved this. And there's just like an understanding in the room that like I'm
It's
a little
so
fragile
important.
in that moment. But yeah, so full circle, now I'm based in Nashville. My sister came to visit and I introduced her to one of my friends, and now they're married. That
So now you're a little matchmaker. You were a matchmaker on the radio back then, and then now you are again now.
I guess I didn't even think about that my career, as a matchmaker has actually been quite successful. Add it to the resume.
You could have your own show on that.
Yeah, I could. There you go. Maybe that's my calling, but I'll probably stick to sports. But yeah, so my cousin married a girl from here. They have two beautiful little girls. My sister is here with her husband, who I love. I got a brother out of the mix. And I know you feel that way about Colin's family as well. It's just, our family has dwindled, and now it's in the hopefully growing, you know, it's just sort of the cycle. But I am so, so happy home in Nashville, and I'm grinding. I am freelance. It's scary, but it's fun because I can do whatever I want. And at the same time, that comes with pressure of like, it's on me to go get those jobs, to be pitching, to be doing my best. But it is really cool to be able to, I mean, I was on the ice for Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final. Sorry, Edmonton. But, you know, these moments, and not a second of those moments, whether you see me smiling on Instagram, living the dream, like not a second goes by in any of those moments that I'm not a little bit sad, because the only people I want to call, and I'll call my sister and cry on the phone with her and be like, God, I just want to call mom and dad. But it's true, like that, those are the people that I want to share it with. And so while my career has been so awesome, there's no question that grief is part of it. It's there all the time. But I don't think I would be where I am today without being raised for that short time by those two incredible people. And so it's that perspective that I try so hard to have, and it is hard sometimes, of like, I have to be thankful. And someone always has it worse than you. Always, always. People lose their whole families in one go. Like, it's never the worst. So I always, always, always try to think, you know, I was so lucky. I am so lucky. And yes, I miss them. But I miss them because they were amazing. you know?
I
So
couldn't
it's hard.
agree
It's
more.
so
I
hard.
feel like, yeah,
But I
it's
try to keep the balance.
because you know how good things are and like how incredible they are. It's like, yeah, those moments are so tricky because as you said, you're so fortunate, but at the same time, you know, it's like so much to miss too. Like
Yeah.
I like made a TikTok about it yesterday, and for the past 5 years, it's been almost 5 years since Colby died. Every
Crazy.
single champion sports game or champion, like whatever, like the Super Bowl, any big game, I cry. And it's like I don't even know anyone on Philly and I don't know anyone on the Chiefs. But like when Philly won, I was starting to tear up because it's like you were talking about the sports and the highs and the low lows in that sports life. And you just have this like moment where I'm so genuinely happy for all those families and like wags, you want to call them, and like their kids. But like there's a part of me that still stings because like Cole didn't get to win a Stanley Cup. So I always say like he's like my Stanley Cup champion and Hall of Fame in like my books. But like, yeah, it's like in those moments they make you so grateful or like appreciate or like happy for other people. But at the same time, I think it can make you kind of slightly jealous. And I feel like that's a little bit a part of grief as well. And I think just like admitting it is like, yeah, there's times that like I get jealous that like all of our friends are still playing hockey, or I'm sure you get jealous that like your friends like still have their parents. And I think,
Totally.
yeah, it just kind of comes in with all the emotions that come with grief. But you are doing like an incredible job. Like you are doing an amazing.
You're walking a tightrope. It's a balancing act. I did think of when you said the championships. I did win a Grey Cup with Toronto, and I joked that my dad would be rolling over in his grave because he lost two, and I got one first. But actually, one of the most special moments of my career was I was asked to broadcast the Grey Cup between the Argos and the Stampeders on the sidelines, and growing up, all the games that I went to, my dad's broadcast partner was Rod Black. And the way things unfold for Grey Cup is like there's one TV team does TV, one TV team does the radio gets bumped down. So I was out of a job, but Calgary didn't have a sideline reporter. So I got called up, and my very first hit, it was Rod Black that said, and now let's go down to the sidelines and check in with Kate Pettersen. And I like had to I was like live. And I had to kind of just take a breath for a second because it took me aback because it was my dad's broadcast partner throwing to little me. And then after the game, I sobbed because I thought, holy crap, if my dad was still alive, we could have done a game together. Mm-hmm. And like, who knows if that would have been, you know, him dying was sort of the kick in the butt to go follow my dream as a reporter and to work in sports. But like, yeah, whoa. So yeah, it's
wild.
Sports and moments and Nashville. Yeah. You've been to Nashville. Half the time I go to Broadway, I think, oh my God, my dad would have loved this. Oh. So we did karaoke in our living room. Like this
Nashville is well, Nashville's where Nashville is where Colby asked to marry me. Actually.
So you have ties. We have all these weird little
ties to one another.
Yeah.
Looking at my last question for you, looking back on everything, what would be an advice you'd give your younger self or to someone who is currently grieving right now?
Life is short. I think the biggest thing, my mom always said, don't sweat the small stuff. And I've always said that, really believing it, living by it, doing it. I'm freelance and I get stressed all the time that I don't have enough lined up. But I could die tomorrow. Mm-hmm. We could all die tomorrow. Mm-hmm. We could be on a plane. We could get hit by a car. Like that sounds so morbid, but it's true.
It's so true.
And when you lose someone so suddenly, a young guy that's so healthy, like Cole, or even my dad who was 57 and a former athlete, like you just gotta live. Just live your life. And if it's something you want to do for your career and it might not be the best paying job or whatever, do it. Mm-hmm. Do it because you really don't know. And that was my mom's motto, was to live 3 days for everyone because tomorrow isn't guaranteed for anyone. So
such a good motto.
Pack it in. My friends laugh at me. I'm the activity queen. I jam it until I'm exhausted. I'm like crawling into bed at 9:00. Just do it. Do the stuff. Don't think. Think less. And I think there's probably been some times in my career where I should have just said, yeah, let's do it. And I was like, oh, well, I don't know. No, just do it.
Mm-hmm.
Go and do it because life is short. And I think the second thing I would tell myself is like, don't be afraid to cut people out of your life. And that's
a
kind
good
of what we
one.
talked about in the start. It's like, if I love doing nice things for people, and I often do it, and I've gotten to a place mentally where I can do something because it makes me feel good, but it's probably not going to be reciprocated by that person. And that's fine. But if you're always the one chasing something, excuse me, asking them to do something, whatever that may be, like, you've got to be able to say, is this relationship, is this friendship enriching my life? Is this making me a better person? Because life's too short to be like clawing at a friend for the sake of it. You know, let it go. And it's that let them, as Mel Robbins says, like, just let them. You can't control it. And life is too short to live like that. You've got to just do the things you want to do and surround yourself with people who enrich your life, who make you happier, make you better, and do all the experiences, you know?
I couldn't. It's crazy how the one we were talking about, you only get one life. I mean, the Let Them book, I am like,
I'm drinking the Kool-Aid.
I am like
Kool-Aid.
totally in on it. I feel like, and you know it, like, you know, you have to like let it go. But I feel like reading it, I'm like, oh yeah. I'm like, this is my
good,
like,
fine,
yeah. Like, I'm like, Mel's my homegirl.
It's hard to get to that
so
place.
hard. But I feel like when you were also talking about your one life, there's always that cliche saying when you're young and you're like, YOLO, like, you only live once. And I feel like until you have experienced trauma or grief, you do not realize the magnitude in those words. Like, you kind of like take it for granted.
It's a jokes phrase, but it's so
True.
real. And sure, we can do it. Like, I go to the fridge for cheese and I'm like, YOLO, shouldn't be eating this, but I'm doing it, or whatever. But in the big picture, it's so true. I mean, I didn't get to say goodbye to my dad. You didn't get to say a proper goodbye to Cole. And like, you don't know if that could happen to someone you're very close with tomorrow. It's not just a one and done. It could happen anytime. I think while grief has been horrible, I think you and I both have a really good outlook and a really good perspective on life because of the way it's shaped us. And so, again, it goes back to me trying to find the positive, and not in some like over the top throw up positive, yay, life every single day. But the positive is we got to experience that kind of love and friendship and support that not everyone gets. And you have to root your days, especially the bad ones, in that. We are lucky. We are lucky to have had that and to live like that. And I think it gives you a great perspective. And it really is YOLO. You only get one crack at this. You don't know how long you're going to have your people, and you don't know how long you're going to be around. So make it count. You want to go on the safari? Find a way to go on the safari. Work the extra job to make the money. Take the days off and go. Because the money's gone when you die. The days off are gone when you die. Like, go do it. Live.
I could not agree more.
Boom. And then listen to Mel Robbins, because Queen, she is like,
oh, it's so good. I'm like halfway through and I'm like, oh, don't end. I need it like pumped into my veins. I need it to be like a good reminder, because I like feel like I feel like I'm good on the let them. I don't know about this with you. I feel like I'm good on the let them if it doesn't involve Colby or like my grief or like anything like that. Like, it's kind of like if someone makes any comment or judgment towards my grief or Colby, holy crap, I see red, and I'm like so protective, because I feel like he's not here to defend himself, and that's so rude. And I've worked on that the past 5 years. I've really tried to be like, let them. It is like their fault for like, or not their fault for like not going through trauma. But I feel like that is when I need to like channel my let them the most. So that is what I am working on in 2025. It's taken like
and I feel the same way, but it's when someone bashes their parents or talks bad about someone, and I'm like, you have them. Like, how can you say that in front of someone who doesn't? But people aren't aware. People don't think when they speak. I've said things before where probably no one noticed, but I felt awful after.
Yeah.
You know, so it's situational awareness. Not everyone has it. And yeah, it's hard. It's hard. At the end of the day, we in a club that I don't wish on anyone. Period. But there is something to be said for the understanding and the perspective. And yeah, the other thing that I deal with a lot in work, and you've dealt with it too, is anyone can write anything from behind a screen.
Mm-hmm.
And people, you see the worst of humanity on the internet. It
Mm-hmm.
makes me so sad. I read a 4-page Reddit last week talking shit about me, just saying awful things. Her voice, she's always high. I'm like, I'm never high. Like, people can say whatever they want. What facts? She sounds like she smokes a pack a day. I don't smoke. I'm very protective of my voice because it's part of my job. I try not to yell at concerts anymore because I'm saving it. But people can write all these things and they don't know you and they don't know your story and they don't know your relationship and they don't know what you're saying to your therapist behind closed doors. Like, they don't know what you're working through. It just, that to me is this whole extra layer to everything. Is that the accessibility, like people can be in your living room without knowing you or knowing anything about you. And they can form their own opinions and say, I mean, a woman in sports, yeah, she's sleeping with that player or she did this. And I'm like, in what world? There are 32 NHL teams. There are 32 reporters with teams. Do you think I'm going to risk my one job of 32 in North America for this? Get out of town. You know? Use your noggin. But it's like, so that, like, there's just crap, all of it. And it's hard and life is hard. But I think we both have a better perspective on life for what we've been through. Although I would take my parents back in a second.
Feel you on that. I actually was thought about this one more question when you were talking. What would be your favorite memory or interaction with Colby? I love hearing it from people that met him.
I just think it's so wild that I took that video. And
the video is so good.
And I think it's so special that I do my thing down below and then I go up to the press box and I just happen to go to get a video this day. That's not something I do every game, which I think is also crazy. And I captured this moment and I think...
which showed Colby to his core.
Like just, and that's the thing that's so crazy. That's what I was going to say. It just encompasses him as a person and his character. And like, what are the odds that I just happen to be rolling? I'm not a camera person. I'm not on the bench for warm-ups. And also too, that I had just met you. So I knew you. And I remember like Chester was a puppy and you were like, you should come over and hang out with my dog. And then COVID hit and like, boom. And I think
just the craziness of Keith Clark would be so proud of us. Where's Keith Clark now?
Keith Clark! Look at you girls go! But like, that... I think that
everyone's gonna be like LinkedIn or LinkedIn.
LinkedIn.
I'm like butchering.
Email. Send him a note.
Who's Keith Clark?
But yeah, I think that moment I learned so much more about Colby through you after he passed away because again, I was only in Edmonton for 5 months. So I didn't really get that personal interaction with everyone that you would if you were, full season, training camp, whatever. So I think that video has to be the best moment because everything I learned after the fact that I didn't already know about Colby, just like you said, it just captured who he was and the kind of person and character. And that was so special to me to have that. And to also be able to share that with you was so special because I was like, I know how horrible these days are right now. And obviously in a different way, but I know that it just piles on and you're just water and you're doing the duties that you like no one should have to be dealing with. So I'm glad that it made you smile and cry and that you have it, Yeah.
I love that video. Well, thank you so much for coming on and chatting and sharing your story and talking about your parents and kind of where you are. We love following your journey. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on.
Well, I like to think I'm doing them proud, but I really, really do miss them.
You are doing an amazing job. And
okay,
I hope
well, I'm going to try one more time for the sake of it.
No, you're doing, I can only imagine how proud they are.
Thank you. And same for Cole.
Well, thank you. Okay. Enjoy Nashville. I'm jealous. Go down on Broadway. Go to Jason Aldean's. That's my favorite part.
I'm actually doing school pickup to pick up my cousin and go for dinner with the kids. So even better than Broadway.
Better than Jason Aldean's.
Didn't think you could outdo Broadway, and then boom, school pickup came along.
That's awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much again for coming on and chatting. And yeah, excited to continue to follow your journey.
So thanks, Em. We'll talk soon.